Good morning, folks. What we have here is it's a prison TV. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, that's what it is. And unfortunately, in the United States, there is a huge market for these. Pretty obvious why. We have a bit of a problem. This particular television, unlike my previous prison TV that I made a video of, it was a 13-inch Magnavox CRT model from the mid-90s. This one came directly from the brother of the actual inmate. The gentleman is a man that I've known for almost my entire life, and his brother did some unfortunate things. Later in his life, he got caught, and he'll probably never make it out alive, sadly. At his age, probably not going to happen. But he got this television when he was first incarcerated in the big house, the county house. And it lasted a couple of years, and now it no longer functions correctly. I'll show you in a little bit what's wrong with it. But his brother was nice enough to buy him a new one at a staggering cost of $200. For those of you who are familiar with electronics and the different quality levels, this is about as low as it gets. In any other planet, this TV would cost roughly, I'd say, about $100. It's like the kind of television you'd buy at the drugstore, only modified slightly. So prison electronics are always made of clear plastic, and the reason for that is it reduces or eliminates the possibility that the inmate might stash contraband or shanks or any other illicit items in their electronic devices. Because as those of you who work on electronics know, there's always large voids and areas to kind of shove things that doesn't necessarily affect the operation of the device, if done correctly. So to solve that problem, prisons have required that all electronic devices, ranging from televisions to alarm clocks to portable stereos to really anything, be made from a clear plastic. And the manufacturers who build these devices also, they basically use all the same components, the same molds, the same dies that they would for the civilian market. The only difference is they're going to make them out of a clear plastic rather than injecting the molds with black or gray or white plastic or any other opaque substance. The other fairly common feature with prison TV sets is that they're going to be missing either speakers or some other features will be deleted from the manufacturing process. This particular TV is obviously devoid of any speakers, and the reason for that is because in a prison cell you can't just close the door and listen to your music or watch your TV shows. Sound travels fairly freely through bars, and with all those televisions going at once in a large open area with just bars separating the inmates, it would get quite noisy. So inmates are required, of course, to have headphones or earphones when using their devices. But the other thing that makes this one a little bit different from most production or civilian TV sets, in addition to the clear plastic, is that the power cord is permanently attached. And I could think of a few logical reasons why they would want this on a prison TV set, when most televisions that you buy from the store, Walmart, Walgreens, where this would probably be sold, is that they have detachable cords, either 2 or 3 prong. Now let's think about that for a second. If you're in prison and you've got a lot of free time on your hands and you really don't like life at that moment, because nobody wants to go to prison. Well, some do, but we call them sadists. If this had a detachable cord, you could just unplug it and stick the cord in your mouth, and you've got your free pass to the hospital or the morgue, depending on your health. So it's logical that a prison would want a permanently attached cord. for that reason. The other thing is a detachable cord can easily be used as a noose. So that aside, they've made sure that this particular set, this model, also does not feature a detachable power brick, an external power brick. So as you can clearly see, it has a built-in 120 volt to probably 19 volt and 5 volt converter built right in. The board itself is used on multiple devices that the original manufacturer produces. But let's go over the connectors. It's actually fairly well equipped for a very cheap set. It features a USB port, which it says for factory use only, but I believe that was used to originally to upload the firmware to the board that displays the company logo, which is ClearTunes. But it could also be used, I assume, for displaying of digital images. It features two HDMI ports, one on the back here and one on the side. It features a VGA input, a PC audio input, so if you're hooking this up as a monitor, if it had built-in speakers, you would be able to play your audio through it as well. And it has your component video, red, green, blue. A digital and analog antenna, tuner is built right in. And this has a right angle adapter that was probably added at the prison commissary. It features an earphone jack, which of course is required for a prison television set. And on the side, it has your typical composite video, right and left audio, and a coax out. I'm not sure what the coax out is for, but it does feature that as well. Also quite interesting, because this is a clear TV, I could look up the part numbers for what it needs and get prices before even taking a screwdriver to it. Which brings me to my next point. There isn't a single Phillips head screw on the outside. Reason for that is most inmates have access to Phillips head screwdrivers, but they may not have access to a hex head screwdriver. So the company has used hex head screws on all external fasteners. What's also pretty cool about this particular set is it also features a Vesa mount. Because this particular mold for the housing is used for the civilian TV that they sell at Walgreens, of course under a different brand name, it features the very same low quality Vesa mount that that particular TV would also feature. I say low quality because it uses coarse threaded screws to attach a Vesa mount rather than machine threaded, molded in inserts, which is kind of strange. I've never seen that before. Then again, I don't normally touch products at this price point either. So, controls are on the top, and you've got your basic power, volume, channel, menu controls. Of course, in any other planet, they will be molded in black, like the external casing. It does also have a microphone infrared sensor right there. Did I say microphone? I meant remote control. So you can use it with an infrared remote. In terms of the original manufacturer, it's kind of hard to say who that really is. It has an AU Optronics panel, which is quite common, but it doesn't. I can't determine who makes the board, which is really the core of this television set. I have a model number, but I don't know who makes the board. It brings me to my next point. Let's talk about deleted options, which you don't normally get to see on your Walmart or Best Buy television or whatever you have at home, because you can't see the board. But in this case, we can actually see what else this board is capable of doing without even popping the cover off. So right here we have a 19 volt input. I say 19 volt because that's fairly typical for an LCD TV or monitor. So in some models, it wouldn't have this board here. It would just have a simple external power brick. Now let's look over here. We have a DVD power and control header section here, where a connector would go if it had that feature installed. So it looks like this board was also used on a TV set with a built-in DVD player. We have our audio or speaker jack right here. It's a 4-pin connector, and it's mounted. Now this is where I'm kind of confused, because it's mounted in a location that would prevent anything from ever plugging in there. So there must be another jack somewhere else on this board that can be used for audio. I found another header, HDMI. Looks like HDMI. So it says 19 in HDMI. It's hard to say what that could be for. That could actually, you know what? I bet you that is for an external. Like there'd be a pin header there, or pin connector as well here, that routes to a third HDMI port somewhere else on the TV set. And what else do we have here? Here's another one. This one is labeled S Video, and it's a pin header. There's another one. What's that say? Audio in. Okay, so there's a few other options that could have been mounted to this board. And let's see, up here. There's another one, power in. That one's also unused. It could have been for a different model power supply. So it looks like all the options and features are loaded in on the ROM chip. When the board is in the manufacturing stages, it just gets flashed with whatever options are mounted to this board, but it wouldn't take more than adding a couple of components. Oh, there's another one, audio out. There's an audio out header right there. But yeah, all the options, DVD menus, port menus, all get loaded onto the board before it ever gets mounted into the TV set. So when it's, even though this is the same board, it has probably the same ROM chips. It doesn't have the final discrete components needed to make these other functions work, even if you had the header to mount to it. But I thought that was kind of interesting. It's called Building One Board for 20,000 different products, under countless brand names. I bet you this is also sold as a Sylvania, probably a Chimay or Chimmy. I cannot pronounce that one for the life of me. It could be a couple of house brands out there. But there's this company called ClearTunes that is in the business of reselling Chinese junk and sending it over to the prison system for the inmates to enjoy. That's one of their few privileged options. Power supply, of course, is right there. Now, this is an LED panel. It does not have it does not feature a fluorescent illumination option. So this is definitely a newer set from like 2013. Let's talk about that for a second. Now you can tell right off that this is an LED panel without even powering it up. Now I can tell you because, number one, it weighs nothing. A panel that was manufactured with a fluorescent backlight built in will be about twice as thick and much sturdier. A lot thicker with a lot more stiffness to it. There's a lot of flex in this panel. It really has no substance to it. It's kind of quite flimsy. But if it were a fluorescent panel, it would also feature some high-tension connectors routed to an inverter, which is basically like the ballast in your fluorescent lights at home or at work. Only miniaturized. What they do is they convert, 12 volts and step it up to, a couple thousand volts. I don't know the exact voltages, but I'm just, shooting out numbers here. But we're talking, some serious voltages that if you were to touch and discharge with your finger, as I've done, it hurts. It bites, kind of like a stun gun, as a matter of fact. It hurts like hell. But anyway, so yeah, this would have a board featuring one or two coils for inverting the power and sending it to those fluorescent tubes. The LED lighting is actually powered by this cable here that jumps off of this bundle of wires, and it goes all the way around behind the board, around and over to the same connector as the power supply is connected to. Do I have that right? I think I do. Because the video out is right there. The video going to the panel is right there. And that's it. So let's talk about the feasibility of repairing this. Yeah, it is entirely possible. It wouldn't take much to do the actual labor. There's nothing here, really. It's just paying for the panel. If I could find a used one, you know, from a junk Chromebook, because I believe when I looked up this part number, it was $75 for a brand new one. But it was also the same panel used in a Toshiba Chromebook, a 13.3-inch Chromebook. But is it worth fixing? Well, not really. There really isn't much of a market for used prison TVs. I'm not even sure if you can bring one of these back into the big house, because the possibility of it being modified in a way that the guards can't really quickly identify, that could cause minor disturbance or injury to inmates or, you know, guards. It's kind of hard for them to, they're not trained to, you know, look at the circuitry and say, well, if you press these two buttons together, then it blows up or something. You know, they're not really, that's not something that is typically, I imagine, in their training manuals. So I believe that they force the inmate to buy their TV set directly from commissary. And they can't, I don't know if they can bring in an outside one. Although someone else can certainly confirm or confirm or refute what I just said. It would actually be kind of interesting. But outside of the prison system, you wouldn't really want one of these as a household TV set, because again, they're made from the lowest quality components so that they can be sold at the maximum profit possible. So, you know, in terms of selling one of these on eBay, they're only getting about $60 or so for a working set, and that's about all you can expect out of one of these. So to spend $75 to repair it, just not worth it. It doesn't add up. It doesn't work. And I don't even have the remote for this. But I imagine a universal remote would work if you played with a few you know, programmed settings for, say, you know, the Chinese brands like Sylvania or Philco, Philips, all the ones that have been bought out by China that are pushing out units, Funai, for example, you know, that are made by these big giant Chinese, you know, sweatshops. So let's talk about, and I just spent about an hour talking about, you know, nothingness. Let's turn it on and see how it works, shall we? So it turns on, and it comes up. It does show the ClearTunes logo, but it's not coming up this time. It's decided not to do that. But it does show the ClearTunes logo. And it actually, you can clearly see that this particular panel is physically damaged. So it is entirely possible that it was struck by an object or a flying fist, and the polarizer was in fact cracked. Not the polarizer, but the panel behind that was cracked. And it's right about there. You can actually, I can see it better in person than on camera, but there's physical damage here. This did not happen because it was defective or because it delaminated. This was a physical force impact right here. But look at how flexible it is. I mean, it's no surprise. I mean, it doesn't take really much to crack it. There's just no support back there. But if you hit it with an object, then obviously it's going to crack because it'll be a lot of force focused on one tiny area. Let's say I'm a prison guard and I've got my standard issue prison guard flashlight. Watch what happens. Hey, inmate, get up! You know, that kind of thing. It probably broke in a raid, but if I go like this, it doesn't take much. Just one hit. By the way, the set is still fixable. if I really wanted to fix it. But you see what happens. So sometimes with LCD screens, you have to have a lot of force, or at least a moderate amount of force, concentrated on a small area. A prison guard's club or flashlight, like this one, would be enough to do the damage. Now it's pretty. So there you go, prison TV. So on that note, I hope none of my viewers ever need to own one of these. I intend to actually dispose of it in a safe and environmentally friendly manner. I am not going to put the effort into repairing it. But what I might do is I want to see if I can't retrofit a small screen. I have a couple of them at work I can play with, to see if I can't get that connector to light up a small screen, like a standard EDP display. I've got a few of those. So anyway, well, until then, thanks for watching.